Flex, let's now talk all things Manchester United, and also as well, tell us about your Man United show that you do for talkSPORT on the YouTube channel, because it's doing really well, isn't it?
Inside Devils, myself, Angelina, Kelly, and Crookie. It's brilliant. Each and every week gets the best of the news, what's going on inside Old Trafford. Sometimes we do it live on location for the big games from Hotel Football as well, which is great, so we get that immediate reaction. And with the guests we've had on, we've had Mike Phelan on as well. It's been fantastic. We've had Dwight York on. So a lot of ex-pros and great journalists with great insight as well as real fans who love Man United. Brilliant.
Flex, I mean, you mentioned, we touched on Ruben Amorim, didn't we, at the top of the show. We'll hear from Alex Crook very shortly on what he thinks is next for Ruben Amorim. But in terms of like the absolute principles, the basics, the first thing he's got to do when he comes in, what immediately do you want to see him try and change? Is it more like, do you think maybe more just almost the culture a little bit, kind of just, the mood around the place is probably something that needs to change, right?
Yeah, but I mean, immediately in terms of what he's trying to do playing wise, he has to get that 3-4-3 implemented. First thing, that's what he wants to play. That's what his philosophy is. Don't procrastinate. Don't, take your time and try and bed players. No, this is what we're playing. If there's teething problems, there's teething problems. Me as a fan, knowing that that's his philosophy, I'd much rather see him come in and say, this is what we're doing, so that he can ascertain who can fit in it, who can't. And you almost start saying, if you can't fit into what I'm trying to do, the hierarchy is going to support me, because he's a head coach now, by the way, he's not a manager. So It is very different how it works now. But the football hierarchy, Dan Ashworth, Omar Barada and co, Ravel, they will support me in moving you on and support me in bringing in players who fit this. We're not changing or pandering to players. Yes, there needs to be a little bit of flexibility from Ruben Amorim with some of the play, because you've got to work with what you've got. So I get that. But the fundamentals and the main principles need to be, this is my system and I need players who are going to be able to play this. If you don't show adaptability or you don't show a willingness to buy into this, you're gone.
I know it's so early to answer this question because he hasn't even given a press conference yet since being over here in England. But like, we often talk about the kind of the aura, the character of the manager, and kind of, you always feel like Ten Hag maybe always said the wrong things in press conferences. You remember when Graham Potter was Chelsea manager, it always felt like he never sort of owned being Chelsea manager. Whereas Arne Slot has kind of come to Liverpool right from day one. He felt immediately comfortable at Liverpool. Yeah. Do you kind of think, again, judging just off the few bits I've seen of him, he looks like he's got a little bit of swag about him, a little bit of aura. Yeah, smart guy, isn't he?
Smart guy. Nice fashion sense, but most of all, that's tongue in cheek. I like fashion. I like fashion. I like trainers and stuff. So I'm easily swayed. But on a serious note, like the way he speaks, you can tell he's got really good charisma. He can handle the room. He's got a mutual respect with the journalists that he's worked with. Of course, coming to the Premier League is a completely different kettle of fish. Coming to Manchester United in this form is a completely different kettle of fish. But I actually believe he understands that. Some of the things he's been saying on his way out of Sporting show me that he understands, like, you can't just come here and be cocky. You can't just come here and think that this is an easy transition. No, yes, the Premier League is a different world. You can put up to the Vitality Stadium on a 12:30 lunchtime and they will not respect Man United.
Yeah,
like
course.
you have to, Portman Road, your first game. They've just come off the back of beats. It's going to be loud. They're going to be at it. They will keep you honest. And if you don't have your players working, you will get turned over. And that is a team that will probably end up getting relegated. So, and I think he understands that. And I think he comes across as somebody who has good communication skills and is quite charming. And I think the age and how he comes across, I think will resonate not only with the fans but and other media outlets, but more importantly the players. I think the players will enjoy having that type of character.
Well, Alex Crook mentions on your show, the Inside Devils show on talkSPORT's YouTube channel. Also, though, on the Premier League All Access podcast alongside Sam Ellard, which is out twice a week, looking ahead to the Premier League action, then reviewing it. On this week's episode, Crookie has been speaking about exactly what he wants from the new manager.
Well, it's a short time scale, isn't it? I mean, he's not due on the grass anyway until next week, because obviously United have got a lot of players away on international duty. So there's a limit, I think, to what he can do between now and that Ipswich game. Does he come in and impose his 3-4-3 formation straight away? That'll be interesting. I've seen one potential lineup that has Alejandro Garnacho as a left wing back. I'm not sure that he's got the discipline to play that role. So yeah, I'm intrigued by that. I guess the immediate aftermath is to get the players on board, because Scott will tell you that what the managers do and say early in their tenure really can set the tone. You can lose a dressing room pretty quickly. He seems very personable, very charismatic guy. There's pictures of him hugging Luke Shaw, who miraculously is back fit now that Ten Hag's not there anymore. Kobbie Mainoo as well. So, yeah, I think it's all about first impressions, trying to build on what Ruben Nistelrooy has done in those 4 games because they're playing with a little bit more swagger. They're scoring more goals. But in terms of the bigger picture, I've wrote a piece for the talkSPORT website about what he needs to do to fix United. I'll just give you the 4 headlines. 1 is impose a playing style, which Ten Hag never managed to do. 2 is to cut the deadwood because there's still a lot of players in that squad who are not fit for purpose. Luke Shaw has survived 4 managers, I think, which tells you all you need to know. Lindelof similarly.
Are you saying he's dead wood?
Yeah, because of his injury record, I think that the time has got to come to move away from Luke Shaw. Turn Rasmus Højlund into Gyökeres 2.0. I mean, Gyökeres, nobody saw him, I don't think, as this sort of striking superstar when he was at Coventry. Obviously, Brighton let him go, but he is now one of the most sought-after players in Europe. And actually, he's a little bit older than Rasmus Højlund, so I think there's still time for Højlund to be developed. And I'd be targeting the Europa League if I was Ruben Amorim, because I think it's so competitive for the top 4, maybe 5, depending on the coefficient in the Premier League. I think United have got to be looking to go a long way in that Europa League. I've looked at the standard of opposition. You don't get the teams dropping down for the Champions League this season. They have to try and win that and get into the Champions League that way.
Turn Højlund into Gyökeres 2.0. If he can do that, he deserves a knighthood, doesn't he?
It's a big ask. But you look at, like I said earlier in the show, you look at what Gyökeres' trajectory was. No one saw this. Like I said, when he was not getting games at Brighton and playing in the Carabao Cup here and there, and then when he was at Coventry, doing well, scoring goals, by the way, but that step up to Sporting on a European level, and then, scoring goals like that against Manchester City, like that, it's propelled him into one of Europe's, top strikers and someone that a lot of teams have been after. And you didn't necessarily see that 6 years ago, which is the same age of what Rasmus Højlund is, 20 or 21, I think. So, yeah.
I think he also makes a good point about the cups. I think you're always long-term at United, you're going to be judged on how close you can get to the Premier League. Like Ten Hag won 2 cups, we know that, but it was never felt like enough progression in the league. But what it does do short-term is just almost ease a little bit of pressure, doesn't it? Imagine in 6 months' time, if he's there winning the Europa League.
Yeah.
Almost just gives, even if he does go to a tricky start, then almost just buys you a bit more time, doesn't it?
It does, but listen, I'm all for cups, but I'll be honest, my outlook on them now, with the type of cups that we won under Erik Ten Hag, they never made us a better team.
No.
I
still long term it's all about the league.
Long term, yeah, but I still want to just see improvement in the team in how it functions, in its consistency, in its deliverables, in its instructions from what the manager's putting down to what the players are picking up. I'd rather see that than be infatuated with winning the FA Cup in a good run because the draw was kind to us, or one big day out and we managed to win. I've been there. Like I just seen us do that. I want to see real evidence that we're becoming a better team, keeping the ball better, playing. In this 3-4-3 that Ruben Amorim wants to play, he keeps talking about intensity is so important. I want to see, do we play with more intensity? Are we winning the ball back?
Have you got the players to play with intensity?
Well, half of it's going to be about mindset. It's going to be about mindset, mate, because I agree. Like I said earlier, there's a few square pegs in round holes, but someone like Ugarte could give you intensity. Bruno could give you intensity. Mainoo, a different type of intensity, not so much off the ball, but on it, he can progress the ball quite well and play quickly. Martinez can give you intensity. Some players can't, some players can, but I think it's the mentality. A lot of the intensity shouts don't just come from how fast you can run. It's how often you can keep making the runs that you're being asked to, not just, what's your top speed. Do you know what I mean? So it comes from the heart. It comes from your willingness to buy into the manager. And if the manager is inspiring enough, he'll get you on board to say, we'll run for you. And I know the modern day player, we always say, it's a disgrace. Like, you're on this much money, you should do what you're told. It just doesn't work like that. You have to feel personable. You have to feel a connection from the person who's making the demands from you. And if there's a breakdown in communication or bad results, players don't buy in. Like, ask any ex-pro. If you're not feeling the manager and you have a look and the players are like, it's just, they all get together and they just don't work as hard. It's just how it goes.
What would represent a good season here for Ruben Amorim coming in?
For me, of course, the top 4 would be incredible.
Is that doable, do you think?
It's doable. It's doable points-wise, but probably a little bit of a stretch too far with how good some of the teams are in and around that. But you never know. A really good manager can do it. I'd say as long as he gets in the top 6, I think top 6 would be a good return from where we are. And if we can win the Europa League, brilliant.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.